I'm Ellie Shoesmith and welcome to today's new series of Tomorrow's World. The issues we'll be discussing today is the cost of oil and the effect it will have on the tourism industry in both 5 and 10 years' time. I will be joined today by Chloe Way from The Economist and one very special guest who you'll have to wait for later. Hi Chloe.
Hello.
We'll come to you first. Can you please tell us about the increasing prices of oil?
Well, the whole issue is that of supply and demand for oil. Developing countries are predominantly in demand for oil, with growing countries such as USA and China leading the way, and the main countries with expanding demands, which puts pressure on oils in the future. In addition, the Western world climbs out of recession. The demand for oil will also rise as people start to spend money again. And the world's oil production is an inelastic supply base. The world's oil production cannot be quickly expanded, and there is an absolute limit to the amount of oil available.
Interesting. How much is the production of oil disrupted?
The supply situation is subject to disruption. The majority of the world's oil still comes out of the Middle East, which is a volatile and unstable part of the world, which we have seen more recently, and with Libya surrounding countries. The supply side is vulnerable to supply side shock, which we've seen in the 1970s and in the first Gulf War in the 90s, where political events cause the markets to become nervy about supply and the price leaps up.
I see. And do you think oil prices will continue to rise in 5 years' time?
As a prediction, I say yes. The issues of the supply and demand will still be present, and countries will still continue to move to the developing world, pushing the price of oil up. There will still be carbon tax, which is in place so the industry can find ways to be more efficient. For example, lighter aeroplanes and smaller engines, and teaching people to fly as efficiently as possible, and not taking bags on flights or charging them to do so. However, there is also the issue of people's greens consciousness. This could lead to people staying at home maybe, and holidaying in the UK, taking carbon neutral holidays, and this trend is likely to increase.
Thank you very much, Chloe. We'll be back to you later. Now join us after the break for our very special guest. Hi, and welcome back to Tomorrow's World. It's now time to unveil our very special guest. Please welcome Richard Branson.
Good morning, Ellie, and thank you for having me back. Love what you've done with the studio.
Oh, it's all for you, Richard. I'd like to start off by asking, the airline industry will be affected by rising oil prices in 5 to 10 years.
Well, Ellie, that's a very specific bracket, both 5 and 10 years. I feel actually the effect will be very different in those years.
And do you think the price of oil is likely to continue to rise in the next 5 years?
I would say so, yes. I think the demand for oil will always be as high as ever, and if anything, it's going to increase. Developing countries such as China and India are only increasing their demand, and politics in the Middle East aren't seem to be getting any better.
And do you think that flights will become more expensive, maybe causing less people to travel?
I would hope that the flight industry, including ourselves, would be able to avoid this, but if it continues over 5 years' time, I don't think we can. We are obviously at the moment using methods such as fuel hedging, just trying to control the costs of the fuel, but ultimately this can't last too long.
And which group of travellers would you think would be most affected by rising flight costs?
Well, I think most likely the leisure travellers. I feel people with lower disposable incomes will decide that they have to give up something in their social lives, and travelling would be one of those key factors. I think business is business and will always keep running, and I think that will be dependent for the airline industry.
And say less flights were put on due to the lack of demand, do you think there will be other external factors involved in that choice?
Most definitely, yes. I think external factors are key, actually. Looking at the current recession, that is going to affect people's decisions of whether they have the disposable income to do long-haul flights. Also, other factors such as social factors, whether people will cut out flying or cut out something else. I feel that people will have to pull back on their spending, and it just depends where they decide to.
I see. And I know that your Virgin will not be one of these, but do you think that some airlines could struggle in the next 5 years? I mean, could they face bankruptcy or merge perhaps?
In the next 5 years, may be too soon for that ultimate scenario to happen, but I think definitely yes, airlines will suffer, particularly the smaller ones. Luckily ourselves, we don't have too much to worry about, but we are always looking for future developments to avoid this.
I see, I see. And can you talk to me about 10 years? Will there be more sustainable methods in place by then?
Well, looking from our perspective, Virgin are already looking at sustainable methods, both ethically as well as sustainably. We are looking to introduce new biofuel planes and reduce the use of oil throughout, so it will not be a factor in our flights.
I see. And from a tourist point of view, I mean, what do you think their take would be on the sustainability issue, the rising oil issue?
Well, it always really depends on the tourist. You never know who you might get. Some people may be willing to pay, others may not. It really depends on who you ask. If we ask this lady over here, excuse me, miss.
Hello?
Could we just borrow you for a quick interview?
Oh, really?
I tell you what, if you do it, I'll give you a free flight to Barbados.
Oh, absolutely! Wow, yeah, I'd love to.
Perfect. Ellie, why don't you ask this lady and see her opinion?
Yes, I'd love to. Welcome to Tomorrow's World, brand new series starting today.
Wow.
Now, could you just tell me, if you don't mind, if it's not too personal, and if the price of flying does increase over the next 5 years, would you still be able to afford to fly?
Definitely not. I mean, I've got 10 children. It's just not realistic for me. With our current cutbacks already, it's just not going to happen.
And do you feel that the airline industry already has a bad reputation? I mean, we've had the VA strikes, the security issues, the terrorism threats. Would you find alternative ways to travel?
Absolutely. We're already using the Eurostar. So much more.
Do you find it more efficient?
More efficient.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So much more reliable.
So, would you agree that your decision to fly is price effective?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I can't afford to do it, and that's why I'm not flying.
I see. Okay. And if in 10 years' time, say someone like Richard Branson with Virgin was to offer you an environmentally sustainable, friendly solution to flying that would avoid oil-related pricing, would you consider yourself flying then?
Oh, that would be great. You know what? My sister won't fly because she's so environmentally conscious and green. That would be great if you did that.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to help your sister out.
Another question for you, Richard, actually.
Yes, Ellie.
If sustainable solution, I mean, it does seem effective in principle, and the signs of new biofuel planes and solar panelled planes encourage the idea that a sustainable and ethical solution will be found, thus avoiding the issue of rising oil prices. However, if this does not take place, and this lady would be very disappointed, how do you think the oil prices will be affecting Virgin in 10 years if the new solution has not been found?
Well, Ellie, I think this is the airline's biggest fear. If we do not find a sustainable solution and we constantly have to rely on oil, the airline industry could plummet.
I see. And say disposable income does not get any higher and you know, we dip into another recession, etc., etc. Could the number of flights that you run annually decrease?
Yes, very much so. If this was to happen over a 10-year period and the oil, well, we could call it an oil crisis or so, was still going about, Virgin would have to up their flights, and if recession's still going on and social factors are going against travel, people just won't fly. They won't want to fly and won't be able to afford it.
Thank you. Enjoy your holiday on the Eurostar.
I'll be sure to send you that ticket.
That's great, thank you.
No worries, bye now. Bye.
I'm just going to bring back Chloe for one final question. Hi, again.
Hi.
And just one final question. What do you see for the future of oil production?
The truth is that nobody knows for sure how much oil there actually is and what rate or cost it is recoverable. However, there now seems to be a wide understanding that conventional oil is likely to decline in the near future.
Thank you very much for your time today, Chloe.
Thank
you. Thank you very much, Richard, for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you, and please come back soon.
Thank you very much, It's been a pleasure to be here. And remember, your airline has either got it or it hasn't. Got a jet.
Right, that's it for today's edition of Tomorrow's World. Tune in next week.